we present memories of Nicky, Nancy Lee and Graham. In this special program, you'll hear some classic radio from Nicky, Nancy Lee and Graham Kennedy. After a short time at 3KZ, Nicky received an offer from Lewis Bennett, the new manager at 3UZ. He was asked to do Morning Women's, 9am to 1pm. Nicky agreed and joined the Greater 3UZ on June 26, 1950. Nicky was given two turntable boys, Alf Thesinger and Russell Arthur. However, both of them were called up for national service, and at that time, Nicky asked Graham Kennedy, who was up until that time his T-boy, to take over as his turntable boy. The rest, as they say, is history.
The greatest composers in the world today. They started off on some simple musical instrument.
Did they?
Take Mozart. He started off on a shoehorn.
Did he really?
Played a lovely tune on it.
Isn't it amazing what you can get a tune out of?
Yes, Jack O'Hagan, I think he played the one-string striddle.
Yes.
There's something like the one-string fiddle.
One-string fiddle, yes.
Well, I've got a lovely little bit of agenda here.
Oh, not your bugle.
What's wrong with a bugle?
Oh, it's a filthy-looking thing, Nick.
Maybe in years to come, people will say, my word, old Nico. Did he get a wicked tune out of his bugle? Look how polished, I'll show you.
Righto, unwrap it and blow it.
Don't ever say that to me. It sounds like suck it and see with a lemon or something.
We're behind time.
Today, I'm going to play this bugle as I've never played before. I had jelly for breakfast. I'm going to blow it. I'm going to put a true obligato into it, second and none.
Blow it.
Don't keep saying blow it.
Come on.
Say, will you render an audition or something like that?
Look, put it up to your lips, let go a bit of wind, and we'll play it.
All right, well, wait till I get enough wind in me. You're right now.
Yes.
Listen to the obligato.
I'm listening.
F-O-R-D. Banish your unhealthy fat. Reduce safely. Reduce surely with Ford pills. If you're overweight, take Ford pills regularly. Follow the diet chart and slim to new health, new life, new vigor. Get Ford pills for slimming in red and gold plastic tubes, 5 and 6, everywhere.
What about that little bit, I say?
Oh, very tasty, Clifford, very tasty.
Nice. One of these days I'm going to play it right through the ad.
Are you really? Not if I can help it.
And then I've got ambitions one day to get a mouthful of Ford pills, and as I blow, I'll use the thing as a pea shooter, but I'll put a little bit of spin on the pill.
I see.
And with practice, I reckon I could shoot a pill in any direction. All right, Dale?
Yeah.
I reckon it's beautiful. Well, Mum, I don't know what you're doing today, Dale. You still home or not? You're out, are you? If you're out, you can't listen to us. I was just going to suggest that maybe the kids need footwear, and I couldn't suggest a better place to go than Betsy Pryor. You can walk into any shoe store, can't you?
You can?
Walk into any shoe store, and maybe a junior comes and attends you. The kid doesn't know what you want in children's footwear, doesn't know how much to allow for growing Tootsie. Now, Betsy Prime, she's got something hanging on a wall.
She knows all about feet.
There's a diploma hanging on her wall. There's a diploma hanging on the wall. But if a diploma should accidentally fall, then she'll have no diploma hanging on the wall. She went to college. She studied orthopedics.
That's how she got her big diploma.
I know, I've seen it.
It's a beaut.
She hangs it behind the counter. And every time I walk in, she says, Nico, come and see my diploma.
And we have a lovely time, don't we?
Oh, it's real beaut. So now I'm saying that if you go along to Betsy, with this diploma, she's in the position to know just how much room to leave for growing little tootsies. And she is the only children's footwear specialist in Melbourne that I know of anyway. That's all she sells. That's all she's got. But she's got a lovely store. Regent Place right alongside the Regent Theatre. Beaut. Well, Gray, look, I've had this. What about a cup of tea? Mrs. Parker would have it on now. A cup of Mrs. P's tea.
You want me to go and get you a cup of tea, Nick?
Would you mind a nice juicy cup?
I'll go and get you a cup of tea.
Ask her a new flavour, you know?
Right.
And if the milk's sour, not to put any of the milk in.
Okay, Nick, well, I'll see you later.
Yeah. Oh, dear, Ed. Ma, how are you today, darling? Are you in the home on your own? Are you? I'm alone. You keeping well? Give us a look at you. Just stand in front of the radio. Let Cliff have a look. My word, you've put on a bit of weight, sweet, haven't you? You know, I was reading only last night in a magazine where the trouble, when you get up in years, the trouble is that the tummy muscles sort of relax. And if they relax, they sort of can't keep your tummy in because they stretch. How many women do you know? Now, you're about the same way yourself, love. The tummy relaxes so much they finish up with the stomach round the knees. Now, this is a bad show because men like to see women with the bumps in the right place, right? Now, look, what I'm going to suggest, I'll tell you how you can fix all this. Get up in the front bedroom and stand in front of the mirror and get up a block and tackle, you see. Now, from the tackle, bring it down and hitch it under your drop stomach. Then start pulling the rope, and once you get it in the right position, the tummy's in its right position, get some adhesive tape and put around your stomach like that, right over the front here and around your shoulder and down the other side, and keep your stomach in the place where it should be. Then put on your dressing gown, pair of slippers or an overcoat, get a taxi and whip right into Park Avenue, walk inside and say, what can you do for this? And before you can say Bob's your uncle, they'll set to work, they'll have the best foundation garment that ever you did know. They're experts, you see. Now, some women go to the wrong experts for their foundation garments, people who don't realise what a foundation garment should be. They certainly can't take it off. They pummel it around, and many a woman walks out with a hump on her back, simply because the foundation garment's not right. Now, if you go to Park Avenue, foundation garments...
I'm back.
You got the tea?
You sent me out of the studio deliberately then so that you could get all intimate with the listeners.
Well, I'm only telling them to go to Park Avenue for a good foundation garment or a good pair of brassiers. Now, what's wrong with a decent pair of brassiers?
Oh, most important. I agree.
If you get a decent pair, they'll last you a lifetime. We know some women who, during the summer, they don't need them. And what do? Cut the centre ribbon, fill each little cup with earth and grow geraniums in them.
Some even use them as jelly moulds.
Yeah. These bras or whatever they are, they'll last for years and years, won't they?
They certainly will, Nick, especially if you get them from Park Avenue.
Yeah. They're in Hoddle House, you know, on the corner of Little Col and Elizabeth Street, on the first floor. Well, good luck, son. Oh, I don't like the look of this tea.
It looks putrid, doesn't it?
Oh, she can't make tea, this woman. Good luck.
Good luck.
Dad doing today?
Oh, I think he could stand re-watering, Nick.
You could say that again.
I say I think he could stand...
I heard it the first time. But tiny tips to you, Ma. My father was a cricketer.
Yes?
In the Battle of Waterloo.
What happened?
The wind blew round his off stump.
Oh.
And he didn't know what to do.
To everyone and all, you'll find no greater friendliness. Seek where you can, than the warm and friendly helping hand of your friendly Electrolux man.
Let me solve your house cleaning problems with the wonderful Electrolux vacuum cleaner. We all look forward to meeting housewives.
I'll say that again. Electrolux, you can contact them. Mr. Wilkinson. He's the fella down there that sits on a big chair with his feet on the table, waiting for one only customer.
And his telephone number is MY1851.
As a matter of fact, Mr. Wilkinson yesterday paid one visit to a very satisfied client. He knocked on the door and he said, well, how do you do, madam? She took one look at him and said, another satisfied client. Mr. Wilkinson is the man to ring.
Nick, I thought we might test the velocity of the wind.
Pardon?
I thought we might find out how strong the wind's blowing outside.
I haven't been at all well, you know. I've been sucking peppermints and cloves, but this wind, it's getting me under. When I was a little boy, Mother used to put me across her shoulder, you know, and tap me on the number plate.
Yes.
That was a good cure. But if you like, I'll open the window.
Oh, fair enough.
I think that's pretty fair.
Let's try,
It's
shall
a
we?
beautiful sunny day outside, girls. Lovely. Listen to the sunlight.
Mighty rough cough you've got there, Joe.
Yeah. Can't seem to throw it off out here in the open. This blizzard sure cuts me down.
Here, try some of my Buckley's. It's mighty powerful stuff. I wouldn't be without a bottle in my saddlebag. A single sip proves Buckley's Canadiol mixture.
But baby, it's cold outside, isn't it?
Certainly is.
Oh, you know, this is the time of the year when if everything's bright inside, you don't care about rains or storms or anything else. I like to see things nicely polished. Don't you?
Truly.
We've got lots of good things to polish various things, Ma. We've got Vatric 158. That's a sort of a polish that you use on linos and things like that. Always advisable not to wash your lino because they're porous, aren't they?
That's right.
Mother doing all right?
She's doing very well.
Mm-hmm. Because if you wash your lino, the water seeps into it and can start a lot of rot. And speaking of rot, this is an ad. But if you use Vatric 158, look, just to wipe over with Vatric, it removes grease marks and heel marks and every other sort of mark. Then a dry cloth and wacko the dead attribute. If you want to polish silverware, we've got a product. Tell them what you did to Grandma's comports.
Oh, yes, my grandmother, she's got two of the beautiful looking comports you've ever seen, and I polished them.
Beautiful big comports. She's the proudest woman about her comports, isn't she?
I'll say she invites everyone in to see them, the mailmen, the icemen, everyone. They all come
Everyone wants to see Grandma's comports.
because they're polished so
She
well.
took them down the street one day.
They're big, you know, for her to carry around with her.
Well, she's putting on weight, you know.
But still, I polished them, and she's very proud of them.
Yeah, and it was eye gleam polishing wool, wasn't it?
Certainly was.
Girls, that's the way to polish silver plate, you know. It's a sort of a bit of wool that you pull out of a container and you pull a little bit off it. You get to work like this. See? You're not watching.
I'm watching.
You were not watching. I was polishing the centre of my palm and you were not looking at me.
Well, as soon as we get television, I'll start to watch, Nick.
Right. Yes, this eye gleam polishing wool, girl, it's a fine wool that can't possibly scratch, but for silverware, you know, silver plate and stuff, even for chrome work, copper, brass, it will polish anything at all. It's a Nightingale product, and it's called Eye Gleam, and it's a real beauty too. Listen, I've got an ad here. This is an ad, girls. You know they're all ads. We don't call them ads, friendly advice, and probably, you know, whipping through 5,642 per day. Well, we get a bit tired of them, and we like to present them in new ways. But if you handle every advert in a different sort of a way, well, maybe you'll listen to it. This is a little sort of an advert that whereby it needs a soft little bit of music underneath it.
Have no fear, my friend. I've got us some soft music over here, Nick.
Now, look, I'll tell you how it starts. If you're in search of a reasonably priced and attractive gift for a bride's-to-be.
Oh, that definitely demands something soft and sweet.
Yes, well, you have your headphones on, so I'll just wait until you say start, you see, and then I'll do this lovely ad for something for the bride-to-be.
Well, I'll tell you what, with this one, being the music such as it is, you start, and I will bring in the soft string instruments under your voice. And I guarantee you won't tell the difference.
Could I hear a little bit of the music?
Certainly.
I think if you started it like they do on the wireless, you start a little bit, and then you look at me and you say, right, like that, and I whip in the ads, eh?
Okay.
I'll be guided by you, Graham.
Thank you very much.
I just want a nice little bit of bridesmaids music.
All right, look, I'll give you a sample.
Yeah.
Memories of Nicky and Graham circa 1955. In September 1970, Graham Kennedy was working at 3XY with Timothy Lynch. On this particular day, the lovely Nancy Lee paid a visit to Graham's Frankston home from where he was broadcasting, and they spent a happy time reminiscing.
Hello, Nancy Lee, my darling.
Are there, fellas? Hello, young Graham.
Oh, young. Oh, not so young.
Please yourself.
How are you, my love?
Oh, fine, thanks, Gray.
Oh, you told me on the telephone, you said, oh, you won't recognise me. I'm all old and decrepit. And
So I am.
You're not. You look exactly the same as you looked in 1950.
All right, yes. No, come off it.
Yes, you do.
Falling apart at the seams, Gray.
You're not falling apart at the seams. I've never seen anyone look quite so well, because you must be 104 by now.
Oh, I am, yes, going on for 105. Won't be long now, November.
I think it's delightful of you to come down and spend a morning with us at Frankston by the sea.
Well, I think it's delightful of me, too, because I wasn't speaking to you for a while.
Why weren't you speaking to me for a while?
Oh, you know, certain things.
Oh, please yourself.
I'm pleasing myself.
This is a sort of, apart from a Hello Nancy Lee Day, of course, in a program that has Nancy Lee in it, and Graham Kennedy, it would be very foolish if we didn't remember Nicky at the same time.
It is really a Remember Nicky Day, isn't it?
It really is.
Yes, and it's quite a thrill to be down here and talking to you and playing some of the old records. And I know Timothy
Lynch.
Lynch.
Oh,
Lynch.
shut
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry.
When I look at you, you talk.
Timothy Lynch is going to feel 10 feet tall when he hears some of the things you and Nick used to do.
Oh, yes, with my funny voice.
Oh, they're shocking, aren't
Nancy
they?
Lee, how did you two meet? I mean, Nicky and yourself.
Well, we thought we met in Chatterbox Corner when I joined there. Nick was part of Chatterbox Corner.
This is the old 3AW children's program.
This is the children's session back in 1933.
Oh, that's 1 year before I was born. Now, so I can't comment.
No. But we'd met before, and we didn't recognise each
whereabouts?
other. Well, Nick played the steel guitar, and the one-string fiddle, of course.
Yeah, I remember the one-string fiddle.
But he had lessons from Manzoni, Senior Manzoni, at Allen's, and I took lessons in the Spanish guitar, never able to manage it because my fingers are too short. And Manzoni had a Hawaiian band, and Nick had been part of that. And I joined up just as he was leaving, so we had met, and we didn't recognise each other until he came over to my place, and we were looking through my scrapbook. And here's a photo of Manzoni's band with Nick in it.
Oh, and you too.
And he said, "Where did you get that?" And I said, "Oh, well, I belonged to it for a while, and, we'd met before."
And then how did you meet up again properly, so to
in
speak?
Chatterbox Corner. Yes, and we worked on the air for 2 years, and then we got married.
And tell me about that part. How did he propose?
How did he propose? Well, he said, I think I better put a leg rope on you before someone else gets in first.
That's Nick. That's the way he put it.
Typical.
Didn't get down on one knee and say, "I adore you and love you and worship the ground."
For heaven's sake, no.
Better put a leg rope on you,
That's
Kathy.
Right. That was Nico. Good old Nico.
What was the courtship like?
Shocking. Couldn't have been worse.
Why?
Well, you see, Nick had a one-track mind. If he wanted to do a thing, he put his whole heart and soul into that. And the courting wasn't the thing that he had in mind at the time. It was...
What did he have in mind at the time?
It was converting an old bull-nosed Morris into a square-nosed Morris.
What's that mean?
Well, you take the bull-nosed thing off the front and you put a square on it, you know. What do you call the thing on the front of a car? You know,
I thought you were about a Morris motor car.
Yes.
Oh.
What did you think
Well,
I
I had
meant?
no idea what you were talking about. I thought you were in a foreign language there for a second.
But I meant a Morris chair or something.
Well, I didn't know what you meant.
No.
I know you get a good trade in at Gould's.
Oh,
On
yes.
a Morris.
That's right. Bring the ads in.
I understand what you mean. So his entire...
Yes, courtship.
Courtship.
Was spent under a car.
No, was trying to... Was it really? It wasn't. It must have been terrible for you. Of course, Ajax will remove anything. Well, they're working on oil anyway.
Oh, this is going to be a terrible session.
No, it's not.
Yes, well, I used to sit on the front veranda with Auntie, you see, listening to all the old times and things while Nick was working on the car.
Auntie who?
Well, Nick's auntie.
Sister?
He used
Nick's auntie.
Nick's auntie. He used to call her his fat aunt, and she was as thin as a rake, you know. And he finally finished the car. It was a funny thing. It was like a toilet on wheels, really, you know,
I see.
to be crude. But it was wonderful to us because it was his first car. And we went out, the first day we went out, he ran into a cow. So we called it the cow catcher after that. And it was covered, eventually it was covered with children's autographs. Wherever we went, they used to scribble their names on it.
And this was...
We should have kept it, really.
You should have, because it'd be valuable now. And this was courtship.
That was courtship.
With Nicky
yeah.
and Nancy Lee.
That's right. And
Not
we
as romantic as I would have expected, and I suppose not as romantic as you'd hoped for.
No, but of course we did see a good deal of each other on account of working in the children's session together.
Well, yes, but there's more to life than that.
I suppose so, yes. Anyway...
Tell me about the wedding
we finally
day.
decided to get married. And we couldn't find time to go along to a church and marry because every Saturday we had so many functions. There were children's fancy dress balls and there were children's outdoor parties, Luna Park and the zoo and places like that. And there were public appearances and there were all sorts of things. And then Nick was doing the early morning session, the breakfast session with Fred Tupper.
Yeah.
So that it was very hard to fit in a wedding in between these sessions, you know. We sort of got married in between sessions.
So how did you do it?
Well, he came off the air one morning and picked me up, and off we went to the to
the what?
I was staying at the hotel at the time.
Bit soon. There should have been some sort of ceremony before going back to the hotel.
I was boarding at a hotel, that's why I got confused. Well, he called down and picked me up, and my mum, Rachie, all the old chums and the listeners knew Rachie.
Including Graham Kennedy.
Yes, Well, you weren't there, dear.
No, but I knew Rachie well.
You were just a little bubber in arms, I think, then.
Well, what's this,
This is 1935.
Oh, yes, I'm 1 year old.
Yes, 1 year old. So off we went to the church, you see, just a handful of my relatives. Poor old Nick's dad didn't know a thing about it. He hadn't told anyone at home because we didn't want any publicity.
Oh.
And we thought Auntie might go down to the local church, you know, and,
Yes,
and
of
sort
course.
of tell everyone.
Yeah.
So when we were coming out of the church, the clergyman very kindly let us out the side way to come down the lane because we didn't want anyone to see us.
Yeah.
On account of the children's session. You understand it was only on account of the children's session we were
But you
keeping
wanted to
things
hide this,
quiet.
yes, I understand.
And because Nicky was a little boy in the kiddies session, and it would spoil the illusion for the chums.
Yeah.
So we came down, well, two women were coming from the market and laden with vegetables, and one had a great big bunch of flowers, and Nick said, look out, they've pipped us, you see. So he rushed down to the old cow catcher to get out of the way so they wouldn't see us together. And here I'm left standing, and they came up to me, stars in their eyes. Oh, Nancy Lee, who's been married? And I pointed to my sister-in-law, and I said, she has. and they saw the ring, you see, and they grabbed my hand. They said, oh, no, you have. Oh, I hope it's Nicky. Where's Nicky? Nick's down and hiding in the car by this
Still,
time.
they haven't guessed that it could be Nicky and yourself.
No, well, here I was, a bride without a groom, standing there, you know, just not knowing what to do. So anyhow, one of the girls put this bunch of flowers in my arms, and she said, oh, you know, I want you to have these, and we're so thrilled. So I said, well, do me a favour and don't tell anyone about it. We're trying to keep it terribly quiet because of the children's sessions. Oh, we wouldn't tell a soul. One of them worked in a factory in Richmond, and of course it was all over Richmond the next day, and people were coming to Fred Tupper's mother's house in Richmond wanting to know, was it true, you know, were Nicky and Nancy Lee married?
Yeah.
And we had asked them not to publicise anything, but about 2 years later the answer man was so sick of these queries, were we married or were we not, that they published Radio Times, it was. Radio Times with a big caricature of Nick and myself, and just underneath in big letters, yes, in 1935.
I've seen this. I've seen a copy of this
Have you?
in a scrapbook, I think probably at your place in the early days. I think I might have
When
seen
you
that.
came out babysitting.
When I babysat for Michael, who is tall, and for Gary, who is even taller.
Yes, Gary's a lot taller than Mike.
I know that, but everyone's taller than me, so it really doesn't matter.
I'm not.
Would you really like to hear how yours truly sounded in 1950, I suppose?
Who, you?
Hmm.
I'd love to.
Would you really? You
It'll
promise
make you feel good, Tim.
you promise you won't be sick,
I'll try not.
because we've just had the carpet shampoo.
Can I lean out the window?
You can do anything you want.
Hey, round the corner, yoo-hoo, beneath the berry tree. Hey, along the footpath behind the bush, looking for Nancy Lee. Oh, Nancy Lee, why did you go away? Oh, won't you please come back to us one day? Old Nick is not so hot, all his ads they're all forgot, and we're getting further behind every day. Hey, round the corner, yoo-hoo, beneath the berry tree. Hey, along the footpath behind the bush, looking for Nancy Lee. Oh, where has our Nancy Lee gone? Oh, where can she be? Oh, where has our Nancy Lee gone? Oh, where can she be?
Now, Nick comes out dressed as Nancy Lee.
Hello, Gray, were you thinking about me, love? Yes, dear. Oh, I'd love you to see me operation. Look, I'm Oh, dear. Not just yet, if you don't mind. It's a beautiful thing. 2 pearl in one place.
On Saturday, September the 8th, 1956, Nicky drove up to a guest house on the outskirts of Melbourne to pick up Nancy Lee and his two sons, Gary and Mike, who had been away for part of the school holidays. On arrival back home in Ivanhoe, Nick was clearly unwell. He was put to bed and the doctor summoned. After giving him an injection, the doctor left to make contact with a specialist. Upon his return to the home, Nicky was gone. People coming home from the semi-final football match that afternoon were shocked at the newspaper placards in big black letters that said, "Nicky is dead." Roland Strong talks about Clifford Nichols Witter.
It was the man in the newsagents who first told me about it. He just shook his head from side to side and kept repeating, "Sad. It's sad, very sad." And then the young fellow in the tobacconist's. He said, "You never heard anyone saying a bad thing about him." And so it's been going on ever since the tragically sudden news that Nicky was dead. Other radio personalities have died over the years. But somehow, I don't think there's ever been a more widespread or more genuine public reaction of sorrow. Perhaps the fact that it was so sudden, so unexpected, that had something to do with it. But only a little, I think. He was certainly one of the best known of all the personalities on the air. And that had something to do with it too. But even those things don't account for the fact that so many people, humble people and people in high places, the highest places indeed, the poor, the not so poor and the rich, have felt and expressed such a deep sense of sorrow. It seems to me that there's so much more to it than that. And I think the principal reason was the essential humanity of the man we called Nicky. He was a success, an enormous success. But there were no airs and graces about him. He never found it necessary to put on an act, to make a conscious effort to uphold the position he undoubtedly earned for himself. His attitude to managing directors and to office boys and to all in between was the same: cheerful, good-natured, helpful and cooperative. His interest was in giving people a laugh or a smile, but never by being hurtful. And when a hard day's work was done, and believe me, he worked deceptively hard, though it all sounded so easy, he was not concerned with being a big shot, but with being a family man. And it was these qualities, which only too rarely go hand in hand with success, and which he was able to convey so well to his tens of thousands of listeners, that, I believe, have led to such a real feeling of loss by so many people. He had great talent, great ability, but it was the simple fact that he was a good bloke which have made him so sadly missed, not only by those who listened to him every day, but by what are possibly any man's severest critics, those who worked with him every day. And the affection in which Nicky was so obviously held by so many people in so many walks of life should surely be an object lesson to those among us who believe that pomposity, self-satisfaction, and the general creation of an impression of great importance are the things that count in this life. For Nicky proved otherwise. Carry on, Melbourne.
Memories of Nicky, Nancy Lee and Graham was produced by Alex Hare.